It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews.
There's going to be much higher expectations, sense of awareness of what we bring to the table.
Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Throws, ends yes! Caught! Touchdown! Did he get it?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome on in to another edition of the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker here. Love to have you participate as well. A lot of texts coming through last hour talking about attrition in the Utah State football program, more players entering the transfer portal, and the scrimmage for this Saturday will not be a scrimmage, not a spring showcase at least, like we have commonly come to know and love. There will be a practice, but it's more situational, working with different units, not a full-on scrimmage.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of drill stuff because, when they have these practices, they do run plays, but a lot of them are against air. And usually it's a big workup to just running those plays because they do stuff as individual units, and then they do some plays. And it'll just be a chance to see some of these guys in particular situations. In drills, those are the particular situations, plus some drills on air.
Yeah. So it will still take place 1 o'clock on Saturday.
Yes.
Outside, though, there will be some areas roped off and unavailable to sit in because renovations continue on the east and south sides of the stadium.
Yeah, pretty much same seating as normal.
You'll still have plenty of room.
Because the east and west, the east bleachers are iffy as to whether or not they've been open. Sometimes they've been closed, partly because there's just a ton of snow over there. But the west bleachers, seats, whatever you want to call them, they're open. There'll be enough spots for everyone there. And it usually gets more full during the spring showcase than it does for the practices, and even the first scrimmage. So I don't know how many people are still going to show up, even though it's a practice. But they're going to have some stuff for the crowd. They're going to have some prizes and fun little things. They're still going to try and make it more akin to the spring showcase than just another practice.
Yeah, ticket windows will be open to order your tickets for next year and all that stuff.
Of course they are.
If you want, maybe you want to wait to see.
Isn't the ticket office over by where they're renovating?
Well, there are multiple ticket windows. There's the one that I think that will be open is I think their standard ticket window in the south end zone will be open because you go through that before you go through the gates on the south concourse. Then they also have the one on the northwest corner by the weight room. So, by the way, we're talking about transfers and attrition for Utah State a lot last hour. 9315 sent this in. I guess Utah State doesn't have it as bad as maybe some others out there or some other Aggies out there. Most transfers out this offseason. Texas A&M listed as number 1 with 30. Arkansas number 2 with 28. Arizona State and Oregon tied with 25.
I think Utah State's up there in the kind of low, closer to mid-20s, though, so they're not far off from this. But, yeah, there's others.
The question is, I think the difference here is, that's a high number for those, but how many of those in that 30, 28, 25, how many of those were starters and main contributors?
Probably a decent amount.
Or how many were just maybe rotation guys who are looking for a bigger opportunity? They want to play more, and they just didn't get the playing time.
I'd say their situations are probably fairly similar to Utah State. I have to look into each one individually to know, and I haven't looked into anybody else because I don't really care at this point. I don't care about other teams in football until like July when I start having to analyze them for Utah State opponents and all that. But I'd imagine they're in a pretty similar spot where if you lose 30 players to transfers, some of them are going to be starters, and some of them are going to be key contributors, and a lot of them are going to be backups. Where they may differ a little bit is that Utah State seem to just all be focused on the defense. These guys might be a little different in that maybe maybe they're distributed a little more evenly, which I don't know if that's better or worse. Because instead of Utah State might have a pretty decent offense and a bad defense, those two just might have a bad offense and a bad defense where they're just not good on either side. Where Utah State at least has a chance to be good on one side of the ball. But I imagine Utah State, they're not alone, but misery may love company, but you're still miserable.
Yes.
And that's where Utah State is, where they're suffering, and they're going to have to get so lucky with incoming guys and newcomer breakouts to be able to overcome what could end up being an atrocious defense.
We before we went to the top of the hour, we had a text said I think the Yankees will have an exceptional defensive backfield, and then 4086 texted in, "Go Cubs."
I guess.
I concur. Go Cubs.
Go Salt Lake Swingers.
Before we get
whatever they're called,
we want to get into some baseball talk because there is some news that could affect Utah's chances. 9315 with a few other texts. Just think of all the ghost defensive player they will compete against on offense, or Jason and Eric can jump in on defense to help. All kidding aside, why not get some former Aggies to come play defense in the scrimmage? Just think Bobby Wagner back on defense.
I think he might be a little busy with his off-season workouts. Maybe, I don't know. If you want the wide receivers to look good, yeah, you can put me in there at corner, and they might as well be running on air if I was there, because holy cow, I think the first 2 steps, I'd keep up with him. Literally 2 steps, and then I'm done.
Yeah, my best chance would be to jam them at the line, and they'd still put me on my butt.
Yeah.
I'd still be wide open.
Let them knock you over and then grab their foot as they run by. That's your defense. Like they might as well run on air rather than have us out there, because at least the air defense, the ghost defense they're running against, probably wouldn't pull a hip muscle trying to keep up with these guys like me and Eric might.
That's good. 1570 texting in. Texas A&M may have lost 30 players, but how many are they going to get from the transfer portal?
Well, how many is Utah State going to get from the transfer portal? That's kind of the point here, is that, those teams may have an advantage in that they're bigger programs and they can bring in G5 players, and Utah State's not going to have that same advantage unless you look at JUCO guys coming up as kind of the same-ish process, where Texas A&M is bringing in the best of the G5 and Utah State's bringing in the best of Subdivision 1. There's maybe some similarities there, but so with Texas A&M may have an easier time. They've got an NIL; they can just buy some good players. But Utah State, if they're doing their job, they can go out there and they can find portal guys. They can find Texas A&M. They lost 30 players. Maybe go grab one of those Texas A&M guys, because they might be one of those guys that's a former high 3-star recruit on the defensive end, and now he's got to find somewhere that's going to accept him. Say, hey, come play at Utah State. You can get like 10 sacks next year, because who else is going to get sacks for us?
There's going to be a lot of opportunity.
So that's the hope, is that if with this portal window, there's guys in the Power 5 conferences that Utah State can chase after. That may be their best strategy. It may be the only strategy left. That's kind of maybe why it is the best strategy. It may be the only viable strategy left. We don't know if Utah State will be able to pull it off, because saying you're going to go get a bunch of guys in the transfer portal is super easy for a guy like me to say sitting in a booth behind a microphone. Blake Anderson's got to go out and do it. He's got to find guys who can actually contribute. But that's the one thing we got to hope for. Because in basketball, I'm watching Danny Sprinkle go out there, and he's taking visits and potentially going to be recruiting some pretty good players in the transfer portal that may give him a really good chance at defying the odds of losing 9 guys in one offseason and maybe having a decent season. Blake Anderson's got to go out there and do the same thing. He's got to go out there and he's got to land some good transfers, do the work, find some good players so that he can defy the odds and have a good season regardless of all the negative things we're saying about his team right now, saying that they're going to max out at 5 to 6 wins or go 2-10. There's a world in which he can reverse this, but yeah, it's like the Avengers Endgame. The one world out of like 1,600,042
the one
whatever.
chance.
Yeah. I know a lot of Marvel nerds know that number by heart, but I don't. It's 1 million something.
435-339-0321. Yes, Utah State will need to continue to monitor the transfer portal and try to fill holes, because more holes keep happening. More players entering the transfer portal. Last practice of the spring. So they were going to have a spring showcase on Saturday, blue white scrimmage, but it's just been changed to a practice. Just not enough players available.
Yep.
So that's unfortunate. The other thing in the news today is that there's news that the Oakland A's.
Come on, that's like the one city that they are.
Yeah, the A's are reportedly closing in on a deal to build a new ballpark in Las Vegas. It will have a retractable roof, and there was interesting post on social media earlier today. Steve Starks, he's part of this Big League Utah group with the Larry H. Miller companies. And he shared it on his social media saying this was part of our calculus and would likely be a positive for bringing a team to Utah.
Yeah, this is the thing we were waiting for, is that, and it was the thing that when, Utah was announcing its bid, a lot of the talk around it was, this isn't going to happen. I think did Rob Manfred actually kind of say it publicly, or baseball or somebody said that they have to settle the A's and the Rays.
Yes.
And one of those two looks like it's getting settled. And so, and we'll see if the Rays have to get settled, because the A's, it was always, this has been inevitable for a while, just how ridiculous things have been with Oakland and how those, Oakland and the A's just aren't a match anymore. And they've been, it's been just an inevitable march toward them moving for like 5+ years.
Yeah, it's been a soap opera, and it's just been going back and forth. But you're right, it's kind of been inevitable. It's just been a slow march to this inevitable end.
Yeah, and I don't think Tampa Bay is the same way. That feels like there's a world in which maybe it could be salvageable, but they still may end up moving. And so that's the one to keep an eye on now, where if they settle something, then bang. Expansion is suddenly on the table. And it's still a question as to whether or not it would happen. But baseball, I think, would very much be open to the idea of expansion once they get these, the Oakland and Tampa Bay settled. Because so now Las Vegas is off the table as an expansion franchise, assuming this is how it's going to go. Maybe there's another where Tampa Bay moves somewhere. And then you gather the remaining cities, whether it's Portland, Utah, Nashville, Montreal, all those. I think Charlotte was another
if
one.
Tampa decides to move, they can't get their stadium deal figured out, and they don't stay in the general area, like going to St. Petersburg, for example, which is still kind of in the same area. If that doesn't work out, their likely destination would be Nashville or Charlotte.
Yeah.
Because they wouldn't want to move from too far away. And so, again, it takes another city that's trying to get a franchise off the board. And if Major League Baseball wants to get to 32, well, Las Vegas could be moved off the board, Charlotte or Nashville moved off the board, and now you're left with Salt Lake City, Portland, and whoever doesn't get that one out of Nashville or Charlotte.
Yeah, and I think you'd like Utah's chances in a group of 3 like that, to at least get one of those two. It'd probably be mainly fighting with Portland because they'd probably look to add one more in the East, one more in the West. And we'll just see. Can they win the battle with Portland? Is the fact that they seem to be a bit more ready to build a stadium and whatnot giving them advantage over Portland, who would have an advantage in market size? At least I think they have the advantage in market size. I'm pretty sure they do.
Over Portland?
Yeah, or Portland's bigger market, like TV and all that, than Salt Lake. Isn't it higher on the list?
Wow, that's a really good question. Portland, it's kind of deceiving. It's kind of in a similar way with Salt Lake, because Portland itself is one thing, but when you look at the entire state that it kind of that pulls from, that can be another, and that's kind of a similar thing with Utah. You have Salt Lake City as the hub, but it really pulls from the general outlying populace. I'll go look it up to see the where they are in the ranks between.
Yeah, I'm
each
always
other.
surprised at how far down some of these cities are, and you think they're like way ahead of Salt Lake, and they're only like maybe decently ahead. So overall, though, this is good news for those of you like me who are really, really rooting for Salt Lake to get the baseball team. This is good news. If you're an Oakland A's fan, it's not good news. I'm sorry, but don't mind me. I'm just going to be dancing on your grave.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, I found something that doesn't have ranks. Hang on. I'll keep looking.
Come on. How can you be like this? Yeah, we'll another thing to keep in mind is that, I know that we got this news like really soon after the whole deal with Big League Utah, but the main thing to keep in mind with this is that the timetable is going to be in years. These dominoes aren't going to tumble really fast. It's going to be years. If Utah gets a team, it's going to be like the Vegas thing. They're not going to get the proposals that are out there now. They're looking at like 2027, 4 years down the line. Utah would be probably even longer because they're going to have to wait for all this stuff to be finalized with Vegas, which might take months, if not years. Tampa Bay hasn't even necessarily begun the process of figuring out or of finalizing whether or not they're moving. And so after all of that's done, which could take years for both of them to be settled, you'd then have a maybe year or so long process of figuring out between, who's going to get the expansion teams. And then you'd have to wait for the stadium to get finished and, all this other stuff. So you're looking at 2030 by the time you might have opening day in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, that's a big difference when you look at just time-wise and how soon it could happen. Okay, so I found a couple of different comparisons.
Found the scroll of truth.
We'll see how close they are. They're pretty close. So Portland, they're ranked 21 in one thing that I'm looking at, 22 in another. Salt Lake City, kind of similarly, 28 in one, 29 in the other. So the Portland market is considered larger than the Salt Lake market.
It's not huge.
But not significantly, yeah. By contrast, Nashville is much further down the list. They are 40 in one that I'm looking at, 27 at another, so it's kind of different. I'm looking at a market size based from radio ranking different market sizes. Another one is more of a television called DMA. So Nashville would be ahead of Salt Lake in one, but far below Salt Lake in another. So, but anyway, bottom line, Charlotte would be ahead of Salt Lake City as well in both cases. So Salt Lake would be one of the smaller markets potentially opening up for Major League Baseball.
Yeah. It's got me excited. It was nice when I saw that news today because I knew once I saw it, I knew exactly. I was like, ha, that's the thing I've been waiting for. At least one of the 3 or 4 things I've been waiting to see. And
interesting comparing how these are different. Some are very similar, but like Las Vegas is 31 in one, but they are 40 in the other. So Salt Lake is ahead of Las Vegas in both of these statistical measurements of your market size.
Yeah. Market size can be, there's some subjectivity to it. But obviously methods of collecting these kind of data can be tricky because, the data that's out there can be hard to get.
Well, and yeah, what, how far does it reach and pull from, like your entire outlying areas who still come to your main city as its hub.
Yeah.
But one of the other interesting things, I don't know if you saw this, but somebody put together a map of flight patterns of other Major League Baseball teams and like the directions they would need to take to get to their different destinations. And there's a lot of them that fly over northern Utah on their destination, on their way to or from different places. Specifically looking at teams in the AL West and the NL West, if they are going to other destinations around the country. A lot of them, Salt Lake City would be basically a way station, an in-between point, so you don't have these big, long flights between your series. You can have something in the middle to break it up. So it's not a big gap to go from the Texas Rangers all the way up to the Seattle Mariners.
Yeah, well, I mean, Salt Lake International Airport, that's a hub of flights and all that, and it's not super out of the way. It's right in the middle of the West, so you're not going way out of the way to Montana. Arizona can be more out of the way for a lot of teams. So Salt Lake wouldn't be that big of a travel problem, especially because they get situated in the West. They'd be right there with the Rockies and the Diamondbacks and all that. And then you'd have Vegas close by, too.
Right. If a team comes to Vegas, then you've got a team that's 12 hours away, 10, 12 hours away, about 10 hours away.
Vegas, 10 hours?
No, Vegas isn't that far away.
Yeah,
Vegas is more like 8 hours away.
Yeah, it's like 7 or 8.
And then you got the Rockies that are more like 10 hours away. Phoenix is about 12 hours away. So all within driving distance if you commit for a full day of driving.
Yeah, a couple of Vegas is like, half a day. Those other two are like a full day. But yeah, you'd be able to dot teams in most of the western states. And, in Idaho, for most of Idaho, they'd be close enough to a team. Southern Idaho would have Salt Lake, and then northern Idaho, they'd be closer to the Pacific Northwest
That's
teams.
a great point. I mean, if a team is created in Salt Lake, is it just the state of Utah that kind of adopts it as its new team, or do you be able to reach up into southeast Idaho and maybe even to Boise and capture those markets as part of your home territory?
Yeah, that'd be part of the territory. Obviously, it'd still be Utah, but people would buy into it. I mean, if there's a team that you have access to, like suddenly a lot closer access, then you're much more likely to become a fan of them. People latch on to local teams, even if they aren't necessarily part of the sport. Like when RSL came to town, like I wasn't really an MLS fan, but I latched on to RSL because they were the hometown or the home state team, whatnot. So you latch on to them. And I mean, heck, you talk about your fandom in baseball. This was one of the teams you could watch on TV.
Right.
My dad was a Braves fan for the exact same reason, except he watched the other channel. So, people around the, Bonneville area up into Idaho, maybe even southwest Wyoming, they latch on to the Salt Lake team as far as feeling, hey, this is a somewhat local team that we can root for. Attendance might be trickier for some of the teams, some of the people a little further out, but you'd get a few more people attending. You'd increase the number of people, consuming your product. And that's something that baseball really needs right now. There's the perception that they're going downhill. And this is something that can reverse that trend. Whether or not it's true and they actually are going downhill, considering they're spending more and more money, I don't think they really are going downhill. But you can get more people involved. Like I said, I've said multiple times, I'd become a baseball fan. I'm more of a baseball fan. I'd watch more baseball games. If you put a team in my backyard instead of me having to travel 12 hours south, 10 hours east, 2 states over to the west, there's no reason for me to get into baseball.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's exciting, but I think you're right. This is a long play.
Yeah.
For actually getting a team here, just getting it announced, but then seeing it materialize with construction of a stadium and all that goes into that. But this is how it starts. I mean, the process has begun, and Utah rapidly moved ahead of some of these other communities because of all the people and organizations they got lined up before they went public with this. So they're in a really good position to get an expansion team. And it looks more like it will be an expansion team, not a relocation of an existing team, which is exciting. I mean, you can write your own history and start from scratch.
Yeah.
435-339-0321. If you want to chime in, love to hear from you. Got to take a time out here in the Full Court Press. But also want to remind you of the job fair going on still for about another 30 minutes at Castle Manor in Hyde Park. Several different businesses are there. They all have varying types of employment opportunities available that you can go and inquire about. If you're not satisfied with your current job, you're looking for a new job, go check it out. Bring your resume with you and go see who's available. A variety of different types of businesses that are participating in this year's Cache Valley Media Group Job Fair. It's taking place right now at Castle Manor, and doors are open for another 30 minutes. So if you haven't stopped by yet, jump in your car, get over there now, and visit with them before the doors close.
With inflation at record highs, why buy new if you can repair your current machine? Daryl's Appliances factory-trained technicians spend hundreds of hours in training each year to ensure your appliance is repaired right the first time. You can have peace of mind. They offer no-risk service, meaning if you want to purchase new, instead of repair, you can apply up to $95 of your service call towards an appliance purchase. See store for details. Daryl's West on Airport Road, open until 6 p.m. on weekdays, 5 on Saturday.
A diamond is forever and is perfect to represent your love. For those special occasions, give her a natural, one-of-a-kind diamond as unique as she is. Our exclusive brand, Neat and Brilliant Diamonds, is both beautiful and affordable with quarter-carat diamonds starting at $499. We have hundreds of sparkling diamonds at our integrity price guarantee with financing available. An investment for generations to come, Monday through Saturday 10 to 7, where Utah gets engaged. S.C. Needham Jewelers, middle of the block at the sign of the clock.
Elements Restaurant has something new and exciting to share. If you like barbecue, you're going to love Thursday's Brews and Barbecue at Elements. Mouth-watering smoked brisket, perfectly seasoned and slow-cooked for hours. Your taste buds will say thank you. Try the brisket sandwich served with coleslaw or brisket plate complete with Southwest mac and cheese and coleslaw. Don't miss Brews and Barbecue for lunch or for dinner with live in-house music every Thursday at Elements Restaurant next to Spring Hill Suites on the south end of Logan, or call 750-5171 for reservations.
Spend less time at the post office. With Formax and Mint mailing systems from Les Olson IT, you can quickly, accurately, and easily process your outgoing mail and even save on postage. Fold your documents, stuff and seal your envelopes, print addresses, weigh and measure to apply proper postage, all with the click of a button. With multiple model options available, you're sure to find a Formax solution and Mint mailing device that perfectly fits your business needs.
Les Olson IT.
This is James Stevens with White Pine Funeral Services. We are humbled by and grateful for the tremendous support we have been shown since opening our doors nearly 2 years ago. So we just want to say thank you. On behalf of everyone at White Pine, first and foremost, thank you for allowing us the honor and privilege of serving you and caring for your loved ones. Additionally, thank you for voting White Pine the best mortuary in Cache Valley in both 2021 and 2022.
White Pine Funeral Services, here when you need us most.
Breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interviews. It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker. Several texts coming through. We'll get to those. If you want to weigh in, 435-339-0321. 5338 texting in. Interesting. I didn't see this one from earlier. How come the 1069thefan.com website has been throwing malware warnings at me for the past week? I don't know. We'll have to take a look at that. Thanks for the heads up. Also, if Nashville and Las Vegas are smaller markets than Utah, how did two smaller Sunbelt markets get NHL teams before Utah?
That is a question I am not qualified to answer.
Yeah,
Utah
have
probably
no
wasn't
idea.
trying to get an NHL team, although I believe they're trying very hard to get an NHL team.
I think that is Ryan Smith's goal.
Yeah.
8968. I can't imagine anyone in Boise rooting for anyone in Utah.
You don't think they would?
The Utah Jazz used to hold some, this is going back a ways, but they used to hold their preseason veterans camp in Boise or do some preseason games in Boise because they knew they had fans in the Boise area.
Yeah, like college-wise, yeah, Idaho and Utah have a bit of a rivalry there where they don't cheer for each other's teams as much. Save for maybe people in Preston, like right on the border, might root for Utah State. But
I mean, there are times where, and I see this from time to time, various businesses or organizations try to claim that they are part of the Pacific Northwest, but that just is a stretch for me. Pacific Northwest is Oregon and Washington, not Boise.
Funny thing is, the Pacific Northwest, honestly, if you look at the kind of stereotype, not even all of Oregon and Washington fit into the Pacific Northwest, because like Eastern Washington and Eastern Oregon are more like Idaho and Montana than they are the western parts of those states.
Very much so.
So like the Pacific Northwest is like half of Oregon, half of Washington, the northern part of California. Like that's the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, that's true. Very
true. Like none of Idaho is Pacific Northwest.
2964. Maybe I missed this, but why has it been radio silence from Coach Anderson and the university? Why aren't they out in front of all these transfers, and where's the leadership for the team, fans, and community? Seems like the wheels are falling off.
I don't know if coaches are ever really do that in terms of transfers. They just kind of let it go. They take players off the roster, and because it's not something they like to announce because it's a negative thing. You know, athletic departments are very rarely going to announce things that are negative. You know, sometimes they didn't announce Chucky Keaton leaving. They usually don't announce. Usually, sometimes you won't find out a coach is gone until they've hired their replacement. That's happened. It's happened with head coaching positions at Utah State, not the football team, but other coaching positions.
Did the university say that Stephen Ashworth was transferring?
Oh no, they never officially announced transfers.
They haven't said anything about that.
So that's not really what the university is going to do. Now, when we step up and we ask them, they'll talk about it, but they don't put that out themselves. So that's more something to look at, once we ask Anderson about it after the practice on Saturday. That'll be something to keep. What does he say? I don't know what he can say. But
well, I know I've asked him before. This was last year. There were a number of players who put their name in the portal after or at the end of spring ball, and these were not starters. These were deep rotation guys or guys that never really saw the field. And there were a number of them that kind of all happened at once. And I do remember asking him, and he just admitted, look, these were guys who were wanting to have a different opportunity that we couldn't give them. And so, it was one of those cases where sometimes the coaching staff is actively involved in helping a player get into the portal because they realize, look, we care for you, but we know that you're not going to get the opportunity you think you should get with the way our current roster landscape looks. So let's help you get somewhere where you can play a role, because it's not going to be here, but let's help find you a place where that can be fulfilled.
Yeah. And 2964 is following up saying, I agree it isn't normal to discuss, but this amount of transfers seems like something he'd want to address and help keep the public calm. And to be honest, that's where the media can, in a weird way, help the coaches, because usually you don't like to put out statements about these kind of things because, again, then you're drawing attention to it. And they don't want to draw attention to it. They kind of want it to come to them, and then they address it. So that, like when Chucky Keaton left, and we asked the question, he responds. They didn't want to draw attention to it themselves, but when the media asked, they're able to talk about it. And this is kind of a similar thing where he doesn't want to draw attention to it and say, hey, we're having problems. Everything's horrible here and I need to address it. But the media will ask him about it, and then he gets to address it. So, but I do understand, like, maybe you'd want the coach to come out and address it, but again, there's PR and, conventions, things like that, where they don't want to put statements out and put social media stuff out about these kind of situations, because, like, 95% of the time it ends up not helping. There's, like, not much they can do to help by putting out a statement.
Right, but addressing it in the course of a post-practice interview, that can take place and that can be helpful.
Yeah, and because if they put out a statement, then people might misinterpret it. They might look at it this way or that. It ends up not feeling like they're getting out in front of it and addressing the situation. It feels more like they're doing damage control in that situation. So I don't know if that fully satisfies your question, but that's kind of my perception of the thing, is that they wouldn't want to try and put out that kind of statement for a few different reasons. You may not think they're good reasons, but they're the reasons they have.
5860, I'd love to cheer for a local hometown pro team. You're absolutely right about excluding these states and communities from MLB because it's hard for us to get to a game. It could be really good for baseball when the visiting teams come as well. You would have more general fans of the game in attendance. I'm still going to root for my favorite MLB team, but now I go see them play the home team too.
Yeah, it'd be nice because, you do have baseball fans in the area, but you get more baseball fans. And there'd be people like you, my dad, and there's others who've grown up. And there's obviously people my age, too, that have their teams. But then you'd eventually get a generation or two of, local fans. People who didn't have to become a Cubs fan because that's the only team you could cheer for. Or the Braves because those are the two teams that were on TV. Or you picked whichever team was within 15 hours and you said, that's my team. There's probably some Rockies fans around here because that's the closest they can get pretty much. You'd actually have a lot more fans. And you would have, people who wanted to go see their favorite team. That could bolster attendance early on. Because early on you wouldn't have diehard, Salt Lake fans. But you could have other people who wanted to go to the game.
Yeah. That's true. I think part of the risk of bringing a team to a place like Las Vegas, and I think the Vegas Knights and even the Raiders, they've got some experience with this, and maybe this isn't so much of a risk now as maybe we feared earlier, but the risk is that putting a team in a destination city is you just provide opportunity for all the visiting teams, fan bases, to come to your games. And you're just providing a venue and a location for visiting fan bases to come hang out.
I don't think MLB cares about that as much.
No.
But let's be honest, Las Vegas hasn't had to deal with that problem nearly as much as the two LA football teams.
That's true.
It's embarrassing how bad those teams are at drawing fans to their own games. And they're two successful franchises over the last however long they've been in LA. Rams went to a Super Bowl.
Multiple Super Bowls in one.
Yeah. It's like, what's going on? You can't get your own fans to the game? Can't get your own fans to your own parade? And it's one of the largest markets in, the country. In the NFL? But Las Vegas is able to support the Knights and the Raiders for the most part. Things might be a little different with baseball, but the Knights have a long season.
Yeah. Well, and maybe the difference, too, is that Vegas, who wants to go to Vegas in the middle of the summer? Vegas is, that's just really hot.
Yeah.
If you're a football team in a cold weather state going to a more temperate climb in the deep part of the season is a lot more attractive or appealing.
Yeah, I think Buffalo fans would be a lot more attracted to a November trip to Las Vegas than they would be an August trip to Vegas.
Yes. But you know what? If you have a retractable roof, maybe it doesn't matter. Indoors, it's comfortable, and you still enjoy the Las Vegas scene without having to be outside in the being baked in the heat.
I feel like Salt Lake would need to have a roof because it's cold and snowy up here in the spring. Like, you look outside. Well, it was snowing earlier. And I know it's warmer and less snowy, you know, south of us, but still, like, you want to have opening day and it's still snowing outside in Utah? It's not going to be like this winter every year, but
no. But you'd have snow games in the spring.
Yeah,
at the start of baseball.
April snow is not an uncommon thing in Utah at all.
Not at all.
Yeah,
be an issue. All right, we got to take another time out. When we come back, we never got to see who won Pick 6 last week. And we need to do Pick 6 for this week as well. We'll try to predict what happens for this upcoming weekend. Invite you to shout out your radio as well, how you would vote. 435-339-0321 if you want to weigh in.
When it comes to home care, it's important to know you have a choice. If you or a loved one is in need of hospice or home health services, remember that Primrose Home Care and Hospice believes in treating the patient as well as the problem. We work directly with you and your doctor to create a health plan that's catered to your needs. Our team is devoted to providing options in the freedom and safety of your own home. Visit us at primrosecare.com or call to schedule a free consultation. Primrose Home Care and Hospice, your local hospice and home health provider since 2006. Do you have a fireplace or stove that isn't working right? Why wait until next winter to get it fixed? Get ahead of the game and get your fireplace or stove serviced now by Advanced Fireplace and Stove. They service everything from Quadra-Fire pellet stoves to heat and glow fireplaces. Get a 20% discount on your next service and labor when you mention this ad. Call 752-7272 or go to advancedfireplaceandstove.com. Advanced Fireplace and Stove, where comfort is their business.
Spring is here, which means more driving and future vacations. Make sure you don't forget your car as you move about your busy life. This is Dustin with Valvoline Instant Oil Change in Logan. More driving means more wear and tear for your vehicle. Come in to Valvoline Instant Oil Change to get it serviced. We'll have you in and out quickly, making sure your ride is ready for whatever life brings you. Valvoline Instant Oil Change, 695 North Main in Logan, across from Angie's.
Can you imagine what it would be like if you only had one option to choose from when buying a new car? Or while grocery shopping, you could only choose one cereal? Sounds crazy, doesn't it? Hi, this is Matt Robbins with Quality First Insurance. This may be the problem with your insurance. You're settling for one company's rates with no other options available. Auto Owners Insurance and Quality First will give you options. Quality First Insurance, 752-0101. For more information, go to q1ins.com.
Northern Utah and Southern Idaho's home for sports. It's the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
The Darrow's Appliance 53rd Annual Spring Sale is coming up on Saturday. Biggest sale of the year from 10 to 1. I'll be live broadcasts going on there. Early bird special, free 1-year supply of laundry soap with a laundry set purchase. A lot of other great deals and giveaways that will be taking place. Go check it out. We'll be broadcasting live here on The Fan on Saturday. So again, the event taking place from 10 to 1 at Darrow's Appliance in Benson. 435-339-0321. If you want to chime in, 9315 asking best pick 6 prize so far.
You're not giving out too many prizes.
Yeah, we've kind of gotten away from the old pick 6 prize.
I mean, I gave you the certificate that still sits over there.
Yeah, I think that just kind of broke it. Like, why do anything more after that?
Yeah. I think you gave me some kind of prize after a while because it was before that because I'd won like 6 or 7 in a row. But yeah, I haven't really done prizes as much anymore.
8968, a Las Vegas baseball team would be a good place for Pete Rose to play.
Yeah. Yeah. You think he'll ever get into the Hall of Fame?
Probably not.
I think it'd have to be after he dies.
Yeah, it'd have to be a generation of beat writers who die as well.
That too. It's like how it's not going to be, they're not letting Barry Bonds and all the steroid users in because they're all set in their ways. I don't necessarily disagree with them, but yeah, it's weird how we've just had a general trend of more acceptance of, at least of cheaters. Pete Rose was just crossed a line that you've said you can't cross for good reasons.
For good reasons. All right, let's get into our pick six. Before we reveal what we want to do this week, I should reveal what happened last week.
Yeah. After you bravely ran away.
Yeah, that's right.
Is it because you lost pick six?
Sitting in my Las Vegas hotel room.
Yeah, speaking of Las Vegas.
I should do this. Okay, so the first one was Donovan Mitchell and Jalen Brunson points, combined points on Saturday. Set the line at 68.5. You took the under. You kind of scoffed at that. That was really high. I took the over. It wasn't that too bad. It did go under, but not by that much. It was 65 combined total. Donovan Mitchell had 38. Brunson had 27. St. Louis Battlehawks over the Seattle Sea Dragons in the XFL on Sunday. Set the line at 2.5. I took the over. You took the under. The Sea Dragons ended up winning, so you won that one. Will Tampa remain undefeated by Monday, yes or no? And they lost like the next day.
Yeah, I know. I saw that score, and I was like, yeah.
So far, you're 3 for 3 on all of my lines. And then on yours, you did a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander plus Anthony Edwards point total at 54.5. I took the under. You took the over. It was combined 41. Philadelphia over Brooklyn by 8.5 points. I took the over. You took the under. Philly ended up winning by 20. So I got that one correct. And then Trae Young points plus assists in the opening game between the Hawks and the Celtics. Set the line at 35.5. Well, he had 16 points, 8 assists, which combined for 24. I took the under. You took the over. So you got all of mine correct, and I got all of yours correct. So it comes down to a tiebreaker. And it was combined goals between RSL and FC Dallas. Line was set at 3.5. You took the under. I took the over. RSL scored 1. FC Dallas scored 2. So you win by 0.5 point.
There we go.
Very nice.
There we go.
So that gets us to this week and a new edition of Pick 6.
I bet you $20 I can get you gambling before the end of the day. No way.
It's the Full Court Press Pick 6.
Ever since March Madness ended, I am so bored.
6 things we think will happen this weekend.
I don't know how the whole betting thing started, but it's fun.
All right, Jason, you won, so you get to choose. You want to go first or you want to defer?
I'll let you go first this time.
All right, let's go to the NHL. Oilers at the Kings on Friday. The over-under is 6.5. That's combined goals scored between those two teams.
I'm going to go under.
I'll take the over. And then combined strikeouts on Saturday between Dylan Cease and Shane McClanahan, setting the line at 10.5.
Who the heck are they?
They pitch for the White Sox and the Rays.
I'm going to go under. I have no clue what I'm doing there.
I'm going to take the over. And then Donovan Mitchell points in his first playoff game in New York, in Madison Square Garden. It'll be on Friday. 31.5.
I'm going to go over.
I'm going to take the under.
All right, got a couple of NBA lines. Actually, it's funny because they're the same number. I didn't even do it on purpose. But first one, LeBron James points. He got kind of disrespected by Dylan Brooks. And so everyone's saying they're going to set LeBron James off. So he's going to have a huge game. So over-under points for LeBron James, 40.5.
Oh, 40.5.
Is he gonna put up a 40 piece because he's mad? And this is on Saturday.
On Saturday?
The Saturday nightcap of a long day of games. There's like 4 games that day.
I'm going to take the under.
I'm going to take the over. See if LeBron just
it's a monster game.
Off. I know. Sometimes he just goes off. And then, funny, same number. Domantas Sabonis, I believe he's playing in Game 3. Combined points, assists, and rebounds versus the bonus, 40.5.
Combined points, assists, and rebounds.
Yep.
And what day is that? Is that in Game 3?
Yeah, it's Game 3, which I believe is tonight.
I'm going to take the over.
I'm going to take the over as well.
Okay.
And then RSL versus San Jose. I'm just kind of setting my own spread here. San Jose by 1.5.
San Jose by 1.5 goals.
Yeah.
I'll take the under.
I'll take the over. I'll have San Jose State covering.
Okay, and then do you have a tiebreaker?
Yeah, tiebreaker. XFL, predict the score. Roughnecks against Renegades.
Roughnecks versus Renegades. Score.
Yeah, just predict a score.
I'll say 28-17.
For
the
gotta pick a winner.
Gotta pick winners and losers. I'll say Renegades.
Renegades 28-17. I'm going to pick the Roughnecks to win 25-20.
All right, very good. I like it. We'll be here on Monday, so we can recap it and reveal who won Pick 6 on Monday. Another quick timeout and some final thoughts on the other side here on the Full Court Press.
This is Ryan at My Mattress. My wife and I were laughing the other day because she read an article about things not to buy online. The first thing was prom dresses. Dresses advertised versus dresses delivered. Needless to say, what people thought they were getting is not what they got. It's much the same with mattresses. Almost always, buying a mattress online ends in buyers being let down. At My Mattress, we try to always exceed expectations. Lower prices than online, and better beds. Only at My Mattress.
Rely now on a York Affinity Premium Comfort System to keep your home cool and comfortable. The new Affinity systems are smarter and more connected and more efficient than ever before. And you can cut your energy costs by as much as 50%. Call Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning, your local York dealer, to schedule a free system evaluation. Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning showroom is west of DI and online at advancedheating-ac.com.
We're not comfortable until you are. Advanced Heating and Air.
Spring has sprung, and so have the deals at Murdoch Chevrolet.
Ready for a season of adventure? Get behind the wheel of a brand new car during our spring sales event.
Right now, receive 0% for 4 years on a 2023 Silverado.
When you walk through our doors, you feel like family.
At Murdoch Chevrolet in Logan and Woods Cross or online at murdochchev.com.
Chevrolet, find new roads.
Call 866-628-3065 or see dealer for complete details. Offer expires 5/1/23.
The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
So Coach Sprinkle mentioned to us last week that he came down from Montana and immediately went to work trying to figure out his roster and mentioned that he brought his staff with him, but he never named names. But over the last few days, it's become official. These contracts have been inked. But Danny Sprinkle is adding to his staff officially, and some of these guys were with him before at Montana State, including Chris Haslam and Andy Hill. Haslam was at Montana State for 9 seasons, really known as an international recruiter. And Andy Hill was there only 1 season, but also had experience at New Mexico and spent 10 years at the University of Utah.
Yeah, so he's a pretty good assistant. And, the international recruiting can be pretty big because that's a way that sometimes, mid-major programs can thrive is you find international players. I mean, you look at Stephen Ashworth, about international as you get. They're like 4 hours away. I meant to say Sean Bairstow, Max Shulga, Nemish Keta, Diogo Brito, like Dan Akin, RJ Idlerock.
Yeah.
I know those guys didn't come here straight from their native England, but, you can find international guys. And even at Montana State, he brought in some international guys. When you have those connections, he brought Danny Sprinkle brought guys from like the same academy that Akin and Idle Rock came from, and they were some of his best players in a lot of cases. So there's some great internet. You look at the NBA draft. There's a lot of international players that come in because there's talent overseas, and sometimes they can get overlooked by guys focusing on all the McDonald's All-American guys over in the States. So it can be a place to uncover hidden gems, and so it's nice to have a good international connection.
Yeah. So these are good assistants, and they do have experience with the Mountain West. They have experience with the geographical area as well, and certainly like their background in recruiting too, which are coming to Utah State. That's going to do it for us tonight here in the Full Court Press. Appreciate you tuning in. Make sure you go back and listen to past episodes on 1069thefan.com.